DC here. Hi, guys and gals. Well, I hope you're well. It's Thursday, and as you can see, I'm just basically, it's pretty warm. Just what I was going to say. I mean, I'm not dressed up like if it's cold, in the morning it is pretty cold, but it warms up quite a bit in the day. You might hear the birds because I'm near the pond, which is just opposite our house, I'd say. Yeah, so I was gonna vlog in a little corner over here because there's the park over there and there's a lot of people with their kids are playing, and I try to stay away because people sometimes don't really appreciate. They think you're filming the kids, and they might be. I get that. I actually once in a train I was told by somebody to stop vlogging because I might be filming children, and they were worried, I guess, I was going to be part of a racket, putting their kids online or something. So anyway, I'm more sensitive to that. Anyway, whatever. For the moment, you can see the pigeons over there. Yeah, I was noticing something. Well, not noticing really, but I thought about something the other day when I was looking at. Just pondering over things of life, basically. And, thinking like, when do you fit in and when do you don't? And I was thinking like, there's a lot of times in my life where it was kind of like on the opposite side of the majority. And it's always interesting to see where that often would lead a person. Like when I was a kid, I was in a bilingual town, but it was mostly French people at one point, but we were the so-called Anglos, even though we were from bilingual families. Actually, we would get rather nasty names being from so-called mixed blood. Yeah. And then, over here, living in I was working in the German part, living in the French part, being a foreigner, living in the majority country. Of course, now I am Swiss, so I'm part of the majority, but when you're like first generation, you'll always be the other ones. My kids don't have that problem, so to say, because they're born here, their accent is 100% Swiss, and so on. Or religion, we're Protestant or not Catholic, living in a Catholic part of the world. When we lived in Quebec, we tell people that we lived in Quebec, and even if we were speaking English, oh, you're the French, and so on. There's always something. Like even in the church where I was very active, we were the evangelicals in a liberal church, or I'm going to be a conservative with friends that are mostly liberals, and so on. It's quite an amusing situation, actually, because it always creates great discussions. And as long as you're able to discuss with people without, animosity or, I was going to say, accepting differences, you can have great discussions. I've had a few discussions that became very heated at times where people would just simply not accept a viewpoint, or rather would try and pass their viewpoint very strongly. That has happened more often than not, for example, when it was around beliefs in God, with atheists, for example, who are trying to, to pass off their atheistic religion. And so like those type of discussions can be quite heated, actually, but usually it'll happen like for example, I've always been a scientist, at least that was my profession, and I was like, how can you be a scientist and a believer? And where we'd have scientists that would take you for less than serious at that point. Interesting, because if you talk with cosmologists and a lot of people, they get into problems. Somebody put some bread on the ground. Yeah. And so, it's one of those situations where it often happens, where you get funny, discussions. There's also one thing I've noticed actually when you work in the scientific field. I'm just getting a little bit far away from what I was saying in the beginning, but I like I have my beliefs, but I like to discuss things and try to have an objective discussion, about what I would call gray areas surrounding the morals that I find important. And when you discuss sometimes with certain hardcore scientists, and I've been in like really high level people, is that you end up having a discussion that goes in this direction, is that that cannot be. There's a scientific method, and they've got their own agenda very often. And when somebody's got their own agenda, they don't really, they're not always ready to discuss, put it that way. Yeah. So I started off by saying, like being in a minority and going off into how that often happens. And you know what? It's interesting because the type of minority that I've been in has rarely had power. We often say minorities have power. You just have to look at the world today, and you will see actually how very often minorities have power. If you've ever visited Northern Ireland in the time of what was called the Troubles, it was only a minority that was creating the actual real problems. I mean, like terrorism and so on. But they had power. It's a lot of times like that. Minorities have power. I mean, what do you think about it? Do you agree with that or not? You don't have to. And I mean, what are your own situations? Have you been, like I was saying, always on the wrong side of the street or something like that? I've had so many examples. I'm not going to get into all of them, but where, being on the wrong side of the street has not made things easy at times. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's just a little chat while I'm walking out here, enjoying the weather. Pigeons. Around the house, we have a lot of doves as well, and the ducks are over further off on the pond. They're not coming too close to the pigeons right now. Anyway, okay, so that'll be DC signing off. Take care, everybody. Hope you have a good Thursday. Bye.